Earlier this year, three Maori Party members from New Zealand caused a lot of controversy all over the world, and what some people could call a spectacle. They would say they caused a spectacle by doing their Haka dance, which is a traditional dance that they use. And if you know much about New Zealand, it's the type of warrior-like dance they do during the matches that they have in sports, especially in rugby, which involves warrior-like channeling of warrior like power and things like that to get them hyped up for their games. Now, a few months ago in June, I think, or July, three members of the New Zealand Parliament who are from the minority group, the Maori, who are actually the indigenous um, inhabitants of that land, which is now run by white settlers. Three members did this warlike dance, and it caused a really big scene. Some would call it a spectacle. When I watch it, what you see is something that's very astonishing. When you look at this dance that they're doing and the fierceness of it, it doesn't look like it's just theatrical or just over the top aggression. It actually looks something that's sort of shamanistic or something that's spiritual with some of the faces that they do and the actions that they do and the energy that comes out of it. And the first thing you know is that when they did that in Parliament, to the astonishment of some of the white members, because it came out of nowhere, um, it looked warrior like, it looked defiant. And clearly, from their body language and from the spirit that they were channeling, you could tell that it was an act of resistance against white settler colonialism in New Zealand. And it was in response to a bill that one of the parties, I think it's the ACT party in New Zealand, which is something sort of ultra white, right wing, that wanted to reinterpret the treaty at the founding of New Zealand, in which the indigenous Maori tribes still held on to some of their sovereignty in relation to the government of New Zealand also, so that New Zealand itself would be a complex nation or a complex grouping of people in which the indigenous voice had a say. Now, the ACT party put forward a bill in which it would be reinterpreted as, oh, just all New Zealanders have a say, regardless of tribe or ethnicity or the monarchy, which was back in the day in New Zealand, the monarchy, regardless of people from the Maori tribe. The Maoris felt that this was marginalizing them and changing the constitution so that they couldn't deliberate anymore, which just makes that country, which has 20% Maori, I think it's about 60 or 70% whites, it would just make it more powerful for them formally through the Constitution. But we know constitutions mean nothing, which is why you can see the Maori tribe, the Maori peoples, in 2000, earlier this year, and just recently, again in Parliament, doing this Haka dance, which is very, when you look at this dance and you look at the expression and the channel, you can see that this is a warlike intention towards the white settlers. When I say war, I don't necessarily mean violence, but it's letting them know that you still have power in this country, but we are still defiant. And just because we're sort of obeying you and following your rituals in Parliament and everything, know that at some point we are going to liberate ourselves from you, and we're going to be able to live with you, because they're not going to say you have to leave, but we're going to live with you side by side, but you're going to respect our tribal councils and our own value systems and take them into account on the land of New Zealand. And we are sovereign. You don't have any power over us. We're just in an agreed treaty with you. So when you look at that dance and you see the power of it, you understand what it's about. But on the news, they make it into a spectacle, saying, "Look at this buffoonish behavior. They're they're disrupting our meetings. They're going against the democratic process by shutting down the process of voting because of this disruption, so that we can't have an orderly session in Parliament," which is BS. We know that in Parliament there's always a lot of raucous behavior and things, and at the end of the day, bills and things will still get passed. So this idea that they're unruly and bringing chaos into Parliament is not the real problem. The real problem is that the first Haka dance, which was done in response to a bill that the ACT party, as I mentioned before, was putting forward, in which the sovereignty of the Maori people would be absolutely dissolved into the Union of New Zealand, regardless of race and ethnicity. But we have to remember that it's the whites there who have most of the power within government. So what they were really trying to do is say, hey, look, this is a country in which we don't discriminate on race and everything, and they can afford to do that because enough of their people are there to turn New Zealand into what would be an absolutely, I won't use the word white supremacist, but an absolutely um, Western controlled country, basically controlled by the whites. Now let's go to the so-called spectacle that they had a few days ago. So after the first Haka protest, which was I think in July, and in which three members of the Maori Party representatives in Parliament were censored and suspended from Parliament for about 7 to 21 days, ranging from person to person. Oriini Kaipara, who's 42, on the left wing Te Pāti Maori Party, had just finished delivering her maiden speech to the House of Representatives. And I saw it. So while after she had done her maiden speech, they were singing in harmony. It was sort of like a beautiful, uh, for what sort of, what's the word I would use? Choral. It would sound like a choral harmony, which sounds much more like what European music would sound. They broke into that more warlike Haka chant, and it was very powerful. And the Speaker of the House said, "No, no, no, not this again." And this was in her maiden speech. And this lady was astonishing with her facial expression, her eyes, the fierceness, and everything. And you could really see that she takes this thing important. And you could see that the Haka dance, chant, warrior like performance is not just something that people do theatrically and learn. You could tell that it's something that's organic and comes from the spiritual systems and practices that we see in New Zealand. And when I looked at her, I could see the defiance in her face and understand what she's saying is that we defy you. We hold on to our own identity. You people who came here and tried to wipe us off and then eventually had to go in a treaty with us. And I will even give them credit and are now living with us pretty much peaceably. But we know that you're still trying to stick out your neck and stick out your head and gain more power in this land, which originally belonged to our people, than you deserve. You already have more than you deserve because you control the Constitution and you really control the government. But what I saw with her was pride in her culture and who she was. And it reminds me of the types of things you see in South Africa, uh, some of the dances and the rituals that you see with the Native American shamans and the Native American people when they're in trance or having spiritual performances. It reminds me of what I've seen in Nigeria with juju or with voodoo. Also, these are spiritual or religious, or sometimes even secular performances in which they channel certain types of energy. And when you look at the Haka chant, and the expression and everything. And then when you see it, even with the rugby players, or what you saw with the ladies in Parliament, with the rhythm and everything, which is complex and involves a sort of warrior-like feeling, and also with their facial expressions, even when they bulge their eyes, you're seeing something that says that I resist you, whether you are a colonial, whether you're a white settler, whether you're a spirit that's invading me, that's bringing me down, we are going to resist you because we are resilient because we're continuing something that's been going on since the first human beings, which is ancestral worship. We honor our forefathers and we honor their intentions for us. And moving forward, we're going to honor our forefathers and keep them alive by keeping our cultures and our traditions alive. And we won't allow anybody to strike that. Even the people that are coming against us have systems of belief and ideology that sustains them and allows them to stay strong too. So maybe in a sense they're resilient. But what I'm saying is the Maori people are resilient and they're living with white settlers in a situation in which now both groups have to learn how to assimilate with each other and respect each other. And I don't think that fair or right for the government to punish individuals for having this sort of activism during parliament, which is even disruptive because it's part of a healthy deliberative democracy in which if you think things are unjust, you should have the right to disrupt things. The same thing that Malcolm X disrupted things, the same thing way that Gandhi disrupted things, the same way that Lech Walesa in Poland disrupted things. Sometimes these disruptions are allowed. And even if you punish these people within your parliament for doing it, you have to realize that the energy that they have doesn't care if you kick them out because they are defiant. And the fact that you're punishing them shows that you're afraid of them. So what we know is that within a country like New Zealand, which I want to also add, New Zealand failed, the white government failed to condemn Israel for genocide, saying they don't know if it's genocide, even though they respect the ICJ, which says that it's a genocide. And also, they to this day they have not agreed to recognize the people of Palestine as being a sovereign country. The reason I bring this up is because why would they when they're marginalizing the Maori people in New Zealand and doing the same thing as white settlers? So, and also they probably have money tied in with the Jewish lobby, which is powerful all over the world. And I'm not going against Jewish people, but so let me rephrase my words, not the Jewish lobby, but whatever lobby is trying to push for Israel to continue doing what it's doing without anybody attacking it. And that lobby, I don't know who they are. They could be Americans, they could be Westerners, but whatever that is, it seems like they have a hand within New Zealand itself. But let me get back to what I was saying. That Haka dance that New Zealanders have only has power if it's not allowed in Parliament. Because if it was allowed, that means that they were being passive and doing what their masters want them to do. But their act of defiance, going against the rules, shows that these people are not their masters, even though they are in the parliament participating in the democratic government of New Zealand. They will break the rules of that parliament because ultimately it's a white supremacist system, which is connected not only to whites in New Zealand, but to whites in the Western world, also connected with USA and Britain. New Zealanders are basically still Anglican. And when I say New Zealanders, I mean the white, because ultimately, I don't think the Maori people are New Zealand. They are Maori. They only entered this government treaty because they were forced to in the wake of what could have been a genocide or ethnic cleansing. Thank you for watching our show. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back very soon.